Good evening, everybody. Shh.
I see dead people.
Welcome to Death Scenes and Cemeteries. Shh. We're live. Tell no one. I'm just kidding. Tell everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Tell everybody. Screaming from the rooftops.
Screaming from the rooftops.
Exactly. Tell everybody.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello, everybody, as we share things out.
As we share things out,
Okay.
because if I don't share out certain places, people get grouchy with me. No, they're
Yeah,
just like, "What? Why didn't you share it here?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"I forgot."
yeah. We don't want our I guess Canadian brother being upset at us. Ooh, look at that. My phone actually works.
Cool. Hey, all right.
All right.
I'm done playing with all the shares and this and that. It is shared out. If nobody sees that at this point, it's their fault, not mine. Um,
Exactly. Same.
and as
Yeah.
we say, good evening, everybody. We are wrapping up our month-long expedition into this bizarre case of the Atlanta kids,
Mm-hmm. Bizarre is right.
and that's the only way to describe it. There's just so much to unpack and stuff that it wouldn't have been able to be done in like a show or two.
No.
You know,
No.
people know who Bundy is. People knows who. Well, a lot of people know who Jerry Brutos is. Not everybody, but Bundy's a big name. Some of the others are big names and stuff. And then some of the smaller ones, there's just not as much information to take it and share out like this. But this case, we
There's
had
so much.
hundreds.
So
We had
much.
hundreds of pages just from the FBI alone. Not to mention
Mm-hmm.
from everybody else, because it's hard to find the information from everybody else because it's still classified with them. Um,
Mhm.
and
Exactly. I mean, it's a case that's been looked at because of anniversaries that have come and gone. It's just interesting case as it is, just because of time period and things happening in a certain area of Atlanta. Um, and not only that, Mindhunter. I mean, come on, that's probably what got a lot of people's gears turning on it for podcasts and such,
oh, definitely,
because why
definitely.
not? Why not?
I mean, it definitely brought it to my attention from watching Mindhunter because I was obsessed. Um, New season came out. I usually finished it within a day. Um,
Same,
to the
same.
point that I bought
I'm
the
I'm
book
now introducing it to
and several others
the book.
by Mr.
It's a
Douglas.
good. Hmm.
And everybody's like,
Yep,
it's
I'm
a
currently.
ghostwriter. It's not really a ghostwriter. It's just about a Mark Allshaker who actually helped him pen all of his books. So
Mm,
it's not just some random person. This is somebody that he knows that he has to take and help him with these books, and his name's on the cover.
exactly. So everybody, go run to your local bookstore and go get it, because it's a good read, especially if you've watched Mindhunter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you want more, because there is no more as of right now. Cross fingers. Um,
Currently
they
not
keep
ever,
saying that
but we'll see.
currently not ever, but they're currently, every now and then it pops up saying that they are going to do something. So I would hope so. It would
I
be
will say that the
nice to
chapter
at least.
for Atlanta in the book is 28 pages long by itself. So it's not a
Wow.
small chapter. It looks like a small chapter
No.
because of the size of the book, but it really is not a small chapter because there was, even for him, there's just a lot to unpack.
It is. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of there's a lot of victims, there's a lot of information, there's a lot of I mean, there was a lot of hands in the pot. Sometimes I think there were too many hands in the pot.
Oh, 100%.
Sometimes I think there were right number of hands in the pot. I mean, at one point, one of the routine daily um, telegraphs that they or faxes that they would get, one of them stated they'd wish that they had the FBI there way sooner than what they did. They think that they had the wrong people in place towards the end when things started to look good.
Yeah, it was a
And
little too fitting.
exactly.
And
So,
especially based on
um,
their whole carbon and dog fibers that they had and stuff.
mhm.
Because there's one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 of them. Only 8 of them that had the green fibers
Yep.
on them. And
And then you had a cluster. Then you had a cluster of gold, and you had a cluster of violet,
yes.
and this kind and that. I mean, it was.
And dog hairs were
I
only
if I
found
was
on
a
like
guy looking at
6
that,
of them,
my eyes
6
would
or
have went
7.
batty.
There's only actually
I mean,
dog
my eyes
fibers
would have
on
went
6
bad.
or 7.
Yep. So, but there was a lot of. I mean, there was a lot of fibers. And not only that, a lot of people also don't know there was. I mean, they took fingerprints. They took latent fingerprints. They had business cards, magazines. They had all kinds of stuff that were found on these crime scenes. You know, one thing I did see and notice that at one point it was forgotten that a lot of these kids were no clothes, wrong clothes, had one of them was wearing a belt from wire from another crime scene. So like there was lots of things just besides fibers going on. Pages and pages and pages of fingerprints and like I said, and business cards and gunshot casings and what was it? What another one was because a lot of them were obviously found out in the woods or so a couple of them were found by dumpsters or it's the amount of paperwork that these guys had to go through and
Yeah,
evidence. Oh my goodness gracious. I would have been batty.
100%. Um, as you can tell, I'm a little excited tonight. My internet keeps dropping. Um, had to take a moment to ground. So, just letting it collect, shutting it
Mhm.
down, ease off me, bud. It's been an eventful day. So,
Sure. Just and not only that, you had phone calls after phone calls after phone calls of people saying that, "Oh, this one did it and this one did it." And I was in jail and my jailhouse buddy said that he knew about it and he knew who did it. So I mean, just the amount of and I think that's where they at some point a lot of the FBI detectives are just going, we just some leads we should have then just never bothered with,
yeah,
which then in turn you have these mothers at one point they're setting up for a peaceful protest, I guess you want to call it,
quote
um
unquote peaceful
quote
protest.
unquote, and just because the mothers felt their children were forgotten about, even though they really weren't, because what was happening there was just lack of communication or
Yeah,
not the right kind of communication between a parent and investigators. And they got angry and they said, hey, so let's go march, and which that's to say, hey, like, we're still here, give us answers. And it was like, but we're not anywhere closer to anything. And then that's where I looked at some things and said, okay, now we're stretching, because at one point, so Williams gets, obviously we hear the splush and he gets stopped. So now he's like on their radar, and he's caught saying some weird things that, detectives and we're like, why would you even say that? Like, why are you talking about, oh, you must be stopping me for those boys? Why would you say that? you know and then, oh, you didn't stop. Well, no, stop. No, I didn't stop. Story changes 3 4 5 times. um so it's that's why I tell everybody, like, I have a couple friends that are watching it at work, and then they're like, where are you getting this from? So I showed them the website, and they're like, we are going down the rabbit hole. I said, have fun, because I have, and I've read every shred of article on there. I said, I'd be interested in what you have to say and think.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
and I told
So
them, I said, add it to our page on Facebook. I'd like to know.
definitely
You know.
find one of the links or something that we've shared and add your
Yep.
comments into it. Add them into the show, whether we're live or we're not. You know,
Exactly. I just, my theory is, at some point they knew, they didn't think, like I said to Raymond in the back, at one point in one of the documents it states that we've talked to friends, co-workers, um people that knew Williams, and they're like, nothing comes to fruition, like nothing is giving us red flags that it's him. And that was in June of 81, in the beginning of June of 81. And then halfway through June, they're like, oh, yeah, it's him. Slam dunk. Him, slam dunk. So, um, and not only that, like we've talked before, at some point, the news media gets a hold of this and reports this information, because the FBI, in the files, we see it. They want to start putting an actual microphone in his car. They want to start bugging his house. That, they're tailing him. They're seeing things, and they want to do this, and they're trying to, by law, so that if they get evidence, they can take him to trial and have it stick. If he decides to narc in the car about something, the
yeah.
news media talks about, oh, they've got his car bugged, they've got his house bugged, and it was like, and they never knew who ratted it out to the news media. Somebody from the
But
inside
obviously,
had
it
to
was
rat
somebody.
it out.
Yeah, somebody shared that information.
So guess what
Um,
happened? You couldn't do any of
I
it, because
I
now
hundred
Williams.
percent believe it's APD.
Oh,
It had to be,
it had to have been.
and I figured out what was going on because last time I glitched out and stuff. It's the
Yep.
router actually losing connection, so it's something to do with the internet in the area. There's not really
Oh,
anything I
yeah.
can help with that. So I just wanted to put that out there in case I go again. That's
Exactly.
why.
Yeah.
Because I
I
look over
just
and it starts flashing red. Stop. Um,
stop, because, or
halt.
maybe I'm saying something.
Would you like some
Stop. Uh
gum?
oh. um, and once again, they wanted to put a beeper system in his car, so that when he gets in his car, pulls out, they're alerted that he's leaving, even though that the amount of
Watching
massive
him waiting to.
manpower, the massive amount. I mean, they had they subpoenaed they subpoenaed for the house next door to him. They had him covered by airplane following him, foot by car, and sometimes he even eluded all of that. So
Yeah.
he evasive driving his car around, because he knew he was. Come on, how could you not know he would be entailed?
Especially with the parade. Um,
Hmm. Yep.
for example, at one point, he was actually in the trunk of the car. His dad drove it to the gas station, He got out of the trunk, got in the car, and took off. Wait, no,
Yep.
his dad went to work, but jumped out of the trunk, got in the car, and took off, and was going down one-way roads the wrong direction, driving 80 plus miles an hour through the
Mhm.
city and everything else. And yeah, it was crazy. Um,
It's absolutely
and why
crazy.
why would you act like that if you know they're watching you and you know for a
Ex
fact that they're trying to pin this on you? Why would you act like this?
exactly. Unless, like we've stated before, because he already has a prior arrest for doing what? Impersonating a police officer. One of his friends actually did say at some point juncture in his time period, he used to go and buy retired police vehicles. And we already know when you go to an auction and they're the police vehicles, they're still outfitted with the lights on the outside, the lights on the inside, and it's up to you to take that stuff apart. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah,
at one point, he had four Plymouth Furies at one point in time together. That's
that's a
you
lot of wee
know,
woo action right there.
it's exactly and at one point he walks around and he's telling people like that he's an arson. I saw that somewhere real quick that he was an arson. He was telling people he was an arson investigator too. You, he wants to feel important, which so many of them do.
Yeah, like being
You
a
know,
photographer for scenes and everything else. If I can get
especially when
these, then my name will be on the news.
especially when he shows up to one of the victims, Terry Pugh, and pulls up, lets everybody know that he's there, pulls out these big cameras, he's taking pictures and he's taking, film, and he's watching and he's looking and he's walking around and he's listening.
Yep.
You and for them to see him there, they were hoping in a lot of the paperwork that most likely he was person that did this was probably going to come and watch and see what they know and what they don't know. But all this, when he's doing all this and acting crazy, what is he saying? I have no idea. I am not connected to this at all. No, I don't know what you're talking about. But you're acting like a crazy person that's guilty,
Yeah. I mean, he was
like
just acting like
really
a crazy
guilty.
person in general. He still does. Like I mentioned before, the whole, I'm talking normal. Raymond Newsom didn't do any of this stuff. He's innocent.
Yep,
How many personalities you got in there, bud, to be able to talk about yourself
exactly.
third person like that?
That's
Um,
exact, exactly. I mean,
halt!
and not only
Stop!
that,
Would
like
you like some
he
gum?
ch- and he changes too. I mean, like his demeanor changes, like because he comes in, he's like this like happy-go-lucky guy, like I'm guilty, it's a frame job, I don't know any of these people, what the heck, blah blah blah. And then it's like a light switch, man, and he's just, I did nothing. Or if it's a question that triggers something and he's like, I'm not speaking on that, or he's not speaking on that, or we're not allowed to talk about that.
Yeah.
That's creepy. That's creepy.
That's full on, DID activity right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep, sure is.
thank you, Mr. Keith.
Thank you.
Keith Ottersberg in the audience for a moment, at least long enough to get us shared out. We appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Thank you, sir.
but
It
it
just
has definitely been a wild ride with Mr.
it
William
is.
Burchett Williams.
So I mean, I'm glad we did it. I mean, because I knew of course, knew of it, knew some of it, but didn't know the extent of the details of a lot of things. A lot of things I think they missed. A lot of good opportunities they had. Um, I'm on the bandwagon of he did not do this alone. I
No, he did not do this
No,
alone. He
You
had
know,
help.
I mean, at one point in an interview, which I thought was weird, they told him he could go. Like they did the interview. His dad comes.
Yeah,
He says he's able to go, and his father, and him stay till like 3 o'clock in the morning, still
just
yapping
hanging
about
out.
the case, still talking about the case. So it's like, what? You're free to go, but you're going to stay here for like another 6, 7, 8 hours, and you're going to be defending you, even though they're saying you're free to go. Like, okay, but don't go. Like the typical, don't go anywhere. La la la. You're gonna, you're being gonna be questioned, and it's like, what?
That full on. I'm going to protest this no matter what, even though there's nothing to
Exactly.
protest. It's like, dude, just if they say you're free to go, leave. Don't continue staying there and
Exactly.
rattle on because guess what? That just makes you look guilty. And
And then
if
they
your
were
dad's
starting
going
to
to stand there and
realize
help
the
you,
stories didn't match. With him
yeah,
staying there and defending it, and they were like, wait a minute, but you said, hold on, let's go back to this. You said this, now you're saying this. Like, for the one thing that I thought was great was this whole thing of the bridge incident with the splash, and hey, like, I'm looking for this address for this, Miss Johnson. Then it turned into he talked to her. Then it turned into his mother talked to her and got the address. I
make
mean,
up your
could you
mind, bud.
imagine being an investigator, like you're like, and you have to sit across from them, and you're just going, "Do you not hear yourself? Like, honestly, do you not hear yourself? And your crazy talk."
But here's the thing, especially if he's, the typical narcissist and this and that. He believes the lies, and
Mm-hmm.
honestly, he thinks everyone else believes them too.
True.
So, yeah, he forgets what he said, and he changes it up, and he's like, "No, yeah, this is what I said before. You misunderstood me." You know, even though they have it on tape, him saying something completely different,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things, the narcissist they try to manipulate. Except he was terrible at it. He really was.
So was horrible at it. And and if I read it right, I mean, wasn't he short credit for a psychological degree? I think if I read that, or he did have it, or he's like two credits or something of being a psych major. I'm like, if you're a psych major, you're like, what's your grade? Because you're failing
Yeah.
horrible.
C's get degrees, bud.
And I don't. That's not even C work. That's D work, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
um, I mean, it was. Do I think, did he do it alone? No. Did he have help? Yes. Is he taking the fall or taking the fall for somebody? Yes. Or being made to take the fall because somebody else is out there more important, that's connected to the area. That's more
I
important.
mean, it's possibly to be a little bit of everything. It really
Mm-hmm.
is. Especially the idea that he's taking the fall for somebody or somebody's,
Yep.
because it's
Somebody's.
probably more than one. And
Mm-hmm.
just based on the behavior and stuff, I would say his dad was involved too,
Oh, yeah. Because I mean,
especially
his
trying to
father
help
was,
cover up evidence and stuff and burning evidence.
and I found something even better. So when they served the first search warrant, that's when they found the photos in this
Yeah.
bedroom that was set up like an office. They go back a second or a third time. The room is totally changed around. Things that were in the room, they're like, I don't know where it went. File cabinets gone, boxes that were labeled with things gone, things absolutely changed around.
Yeah, that
like
stuff
that. I was like,
100% went to a storage unit or got tossed in a river. Um,
exact something, or somebody
and ac
came in and yanked and took it and said, "Okay,
I'll make it disappear.
I'll make it disappear because you're gonna be the low man on the totem pole. You're gonna be the patsy. You're gonna do this because your hands are dirty too, but I'll take this." So A, B, C, D, E, whoever, how many people are involved, don't get found out.
Yep.
And like we've said before, these are just theories and opinions of like little blurbs of things and paragraphs that we see that just go make your spidey sense go,
Wait a second.
what? Mm-hmm.
And that's why it says views on this show are strictly those of the host. You're
Yep,
welcome, Facebook.
exactly.
Um,
I mean, they're just, like especially when they pulled a search warrant finally, which I was like, that was weird. Finally, for the white station wagon that I was always under the assumption belonged to his dad. Was not his dad, was his uncle, his father's brother. When I saw
interesting.
that in there, that just makes you go, what? What?
Especially since nobody ever saw the uncle.
And like,
So what
and
all is in that guy's house?
exactly.
Uh,
And the amount of stuff, like, and I don't know. I tend to think that he was somewhat meticulous, maybe not. I like to think that he was, and the amount of stuff that they pulled out in that station wagon was it was like I think it was like 7 or 8 pages of things that they pulled out of business cards and pencils and flyers, and this was really weird. Like so they're like, "Hey, you've got 2 bags of like clothes back here. Women's clothing and men's clothing." And he's like, "Oh yeah, the men's clothing is like mine because I went to the gym." And they're like, "Well, where's your sneakers?" Because you didn't have any you don't have any gym sneakers, And the women's clothing obviously wasn't of the girls, so you couldn't really say that they were his. That I mean, they were his mother's. He said that. But interesting thing that I was like, they found fragments of underwear that were used to clean the car down. And it's like, did you not? And hello, go back and say some of the bodies were completely found either nude or just in their underwear and maybe a shirt, socks. Just some of the weird things that they found: buttons, clothes buttons under seats. I don't know, like,
and didn't decide to take any of it.
or they took it, but they never bothered to say, well, so and so has a shirt. Let's see if this button matches like so and so shirt. And if it does, oh well, then he was in his car. So like me, okay, if he's got a button of let's one of the victims, to me, like, oh, okay, that's, I mean, circumstantial evidence. Yeah, okay, he was in the car with him. That ties him better than a carpet fiber, in
Yeah,
my
Keith.
opinion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Used underwear to
Yeah.
clean a car.
Yeah. Keith goes, used underwear to clean a car. Yes. Yes.
That's why it smells like pee.
It was lots of weird things.
You're iron in my car.
Which goes along with how crazy this case, because we talked last time about what somebody said, to make a robot child to walk the streets to
Yeah.
lure him out of the darkness. You know, one person, like they said, I don't know, like they called it like a secret viewer, or I don't even know how they phrased it, but it was weird. Like they gave this guy, but you couldn't obviously the name is blacked out. 5-page letter going, hey, this is my theory. So the dog catcher in the neighborhood, that's a city employee or a county employee, had to have been the one to do this because the boys were asphyxiated. Well, has anybody ever bothered to see how they humanely put down animals at the pound? They put them in a decompression chamber. So what happens in a decompression chamber? You you just go to sleep. You know, you asphyxiate. Same thing.
Welcome to the vacuum.
So and just the paragraphs of, oh well, these kids had to have, you know, somehow ended up in there. That was that to begin with. And then it was, well, maybe he paid them to come do odd jobs because they were poor black folk, quote unquote, and they fell in it. I was just like, this is the craziness they entertained. So, I mean, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know if that maybe that guy's the robot. I don't know, but
Exactly, Keith. And hello, Harley. Thanks for watching. Um,
yes,
we are still talking about our craziness that involves the Atlanta kids, and that's exactly what it is. It's just insane.
yeah. Because at some point you have angry mothers, angry, you know, citizens. You have angry people in general, and you need to solve this problem before there is a humongous issue that would probably have erupted if they didn't come up with something.
And honestly, they were looking at a race war. They were.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Which,
So,
is interesting to me because we're all a different shade of brown. But anyway,
so it just, let's just box it up, find a couple things that look the same. He, definitely guilty on those two that he's tied to. That's fine. And the only reason I was looking and I was thinking the only reason why they kind of put them in with it is because whoever decided to make the list, because of somebody wasn't reported missing. I can't remember which one of the adults. It might have been Michael McIntosh. That's who it was. He wasn't reported missing. He was seen working with Williams like 3-4 weeks before his quote unquote disappearance. Um, so, and he's thrown into that lump of the kids. So I think they saw an in and just said, okay, he did it all. Closed case. Not only that, they started watching the money that they were spending.
yeah.
That too, and the money that they were asking from the federal government, like, hey, like we have to send, we have witnesses. They need to be a polygraph. That costs money. We need to bring a polygrapher in. You were chasing leads all over the country for a license plate. So you
They
had
thought it was the Zodiac killer.
they thought it was the Zodiac killer at one point. At one point they were in Mexico because some lady said somebody in Mexico said that she had a letter that was sent to her for her to send to Atlanta, and the Spanish was so bad in it they were like, that's like not credible. But they started tracking it, and they're like, well, you have all these people that come in that fingerprints, and you find them because they're on file. Well, what do you need to do? You need to bring them in, you need to feed them. So it's like, think like it was just like, find it, put it in a box, put it in a bow, and end it. If it makes sense or not.
100%, actually.
That's the only thing I could think of before even more crazy came out. Because, I mean, there was crazy. There was a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah, there are some suggestions that were just way out there.
Mhm. I mean, and then
I mean, we even considered a couple of theories and stuff, and went back and traced back through them, and it's like, no, there's
nope.
no possible way that that was, you know, an opportunity there. So we
Mhm.
just let them go and went back through the files and started searching again. Okay,
Exactly.
it's definitely people in this area.
And it had
It's
to have been
definitely
had to
people that these kids at least kind of knew.
to get in cars that they were witness in cars that matched the description of either him or somebody else, and they were just like, "Oh, but that somebody else doesn't no, like, that's not credible. Like, it can't be that person." Okay, it can't be that person, but they were seen in that person's car or whatever. It like I've always said, it had to be somebody, it had to have been somebody or someone or somebodies that knew that area very well, knew those families very well. It was somebody, maybe possibly bringing them to somebody else because you had a feeder program because he had the perfect opportunity. What? Come audition for my musical group.
Yeah.
And what happens after that happens after that. So,
So it was definitely just a ton of craziness. I know we keep talking in circles, but
yeah.
that's the biggest part of it is
Because it does go
between
in
his
circles.
bizarre behavior and just the bizarreness of the case in general and all the leads that they were chasing and all these other leads that were coming out that were
Mhm.
just I understand that you have to take and give every lead the possibility, but don't spend months looking for a license plate when you don't even have a number.
I mean, and when you
You
do
have
find the
colors.
lead, and when you find the lead, they're in Las Vegas. And she goes, I either threw like I told my husband because that's who was the perp at that point that they were looking at. I told my husband to get rid of the plates. I mean, and if you threw the plates at, like if they didn't bring the plates to the DMV, because back in the day you had to turn in your plates so this stuff wouldn't happen. Because if you threw them out in the garbage and somebody's walking by and they're like, "Hey, I got plates," slap them on a car. I don't have to worry about it. I got plates,
Yeah.
and
Hi,
that's what
Michelle.
happened with us, with that lead. But and then the number of psychics that came in and mediums that came in.
Let's face it. If more than a couple get similar things, and there's a possibility. But when
Mm-hmm.
they come up with different things, every single one of them, and nothing really ties into the other,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm saying that they're probably barking up the wrong tree. Um,
Yeah.
it, it's like that coon hound that thinks it's chasing a raccoon and it's just a possum, you know,
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. I
or
mean,
decides that it's a cat and wants to try to climb the tree. So,
and just pulling up files towards the end of it, towards like subsection 24, file number 24 with whatever 500 pages in it. You know,
yeah,
only one person testified for him, and it was his father.
yeah,
But he had,
yeah,
but
the
but
man
you
who
know,
helped him
like in the
destroy
paper,
evidence.
he had all
Um,
these friends and acquaintances that said, he was quiet and he was geeky and he was never seen, because they asked questions. Was he ever seen? Yeah, was he ever seen having like, which I thought was weird that they mentioned and they asked this. Did he ever have a gun? Did he ever hold a gun? Did you ever see him with a gun? No, I never saw him with a gun. And there was only one
That was shot.
that was shot, and that was the first one. And like the questions like that, and it just and like I said, note after note, nothing credible is coming out of these. Nothing there to pin him on. And then where are these people to go
Nowhere.
testify for his credibility of him being a halfway decent human being? That's what they said he was. And it's only his dad that testifies for him. Only his dad. Weird.
So either they were lying the first time they were interviewed, or they were paid not to talk.
Exactly.
I said it.
Yeah, he
This is
said
an
it.
opinion. I said it.
Yeah, opinion.
Uh,
Yeah.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for joining. I know you usually share us out, so greatly appreciate it. Um, we're about 18 minutes in. Might as well take and say a few things. You know,
Mm-hmm.
thank you to Parapost. Thank you to Global Ghost Hunt for letting us share this out on there. Um, Parapost Network Central has all kinds of different shows, paranormal,
Oh, sorry.
conspiracies, other shows like us on there. So there's a little bit of everything for everybody. There's supposed to be a new health podcast coming to it soon with Brian J. A. Laverty, who runs Parapost Network Central. Global Ghost Hunt is one event this year. It is free for teams to sign up. Let me repeat that. It is absolutely free.
Free,
So
free,
sign
free,
your teams up. It's free publicity because you get to be live for 2 hours. Um,
free. Yeah.
exactly. Um, and it is October 16th through the 26th. And if we have more than enough teams to sign up, we will expand that amount of time from 10 days to at least 2 weeks. So let's fill up half the month, if not more, with different
Yes.
teams
Oh,
doing what they do, because I absolutely love that. I get to learn so much from different teams. It's so cool to watch and to participate in. I've been on there several times. Renee's been on there with me once.
yes.
We were live at Bobby Mackey's.
Yes,
Um,
we were.
we
Great
were
time.
playing poker with an entity, and he
Yeah,
likes whiskey. Um,
he likes whiskey. Yes, he does. And and then there's an entity that hangs out in the men's bathroom that like to fuck with Steve, and it's
yeah,
kind of
through
fun.
Steve's blind walking cane into
Mm-hmm.
the hallway from the bathroom. Um, that was before we even started running live.
Yep.
Actually, right after we first got there, we hear a crash. You good? And then we hear a chuckle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And then
And
a bunch of myself, Bridget, and Pat. We all go to the ladies' room, and we're like, "Yeah, this mirror just needs to go." And I'm sitting there, and I'm in the stall, and I get up, and like I don't know what happened, and Pat goes, "All right," and I'm like, "I don't know. The garbage can is like moving. I don't know. Get me out of here."
I'm about to pee myself after I just peed. Um,
Exactly. So
but speaking of the mechanics, this Thursday is tarot night. Come get a free reading. If you donate stars, you get bumped to the top of the list and can get a reading from every reader on the screen, which is a good time. We
yeah,
used to have an official name for that. We've kind of moved away from that, unfortunately, but I thought it was hilarious. Um,
yes, I agree. Quite
and
fun.
then we have two big events for March and a class March 1st, which is sigils, seals, and awards and how they work and how to use them.
Mr. Chris
It it's a more technical way of being put, but that's Mr. Chris Davis teaching it online only. Got to have prerequisite of at least one of the 100s classes. That's just because of how in depth he goes. And trust
Yes.
me, I've been taught by Chris personally. He goes through details. He is going to let you experience it, and he's going to show you how to make it work.
The
Phenomenal.
man likes his
Um,
rabbit hole. Just gonna say
you're solid.
that.
March 15th and 16th, we are in Elizabethtown, Kentucky at Light Up Festival,
Mhm.
404 South Mulberry Street there in Elizabethtown. Um, then at the end of the month, the last weekend of March, we are at Sacred Journey Market at 4506 Eastgate Boulevard, which is the Holiday Inn Express there in Eastgate. Always a good time. There's seminars, there's all kinds of things going on. Um, you'll get to see us be crazy. If we get 300 people through the door for the weekend, I am dressing back up as what I wore for Scarefest Kids Day, which is Ace Ventura from the asylum scene where he's running around in the boxer shorts and the pink tutu. It's at the house. It's going with me. Let's make this happen because it is a good
So-
time because I get into full character.
oh, does he ever, people? Oh, does he ever? Right,
Like,
Ronald?
oh yeah, Ronald. The year before that,
Yep.
I, I was like the creepy old mid-age Ronald that was just completely over life, and I sold it so well. Um,
Oh,
I
ever.
have a picture with a guy dressed up as Colonel Sanders. I had little kids coming to me for pictures. It was great. Um,
Great stuff.
other than that, that is the excitement that is coming up. Um, final thoughts on the AtKid case.
It's interesting. It is a deep dive. If you're up for it, go do it. I will when this is over with. I will. I always say I do, and then I don't do it, but I'm going to do it this time. Um, there is a great podcast. It's called theatlantamonster.com. He did a deep dive as well as us. It's really good. And go,
I'm
like I
sure
said,
he
go,
probably went even more in depth than what we have because he's spent several episodes and we've only spent four.
exactly.
And even the
And
stuff that we discovered was just pure lunacy. Um,
yes, pure lunacy. I mean, and he actually puts boots on ground also too. So he is in that said neighborhood where these, things have changed since then, obviously, because the low income housing had been torn down, but he's in that vicinity. He's looking, he's, by the pool, he's by the dumpster where the dumpster probably was, by the laundromat where, and the abandoned school. Like he's there, boots on ground, interviewing people. And he just wants to find answers too, because he thinks these boys deserve justice.
100%.
So,
100%. And that's usually one of our goals because previous killers that we've discussed and previous cases we've discussed, we have actually put up links to take and share where there were people that still weren't identified. And that way,
yes.
if somebody has any possible connection, this and that, they can get in touch with those people to take and find out if it was somebody they knew
Yeah,
or
because I mean,
related
there
to.
are still boys missing. One that I know off the top of my head, Daryl Glass, is still missing. Obviously, now he's presumed dead, but he's one of the boys that is still missing. There are still missing children from this era and this time. So, it's the least that we can do in this day and age with DNA and cold cases and things being brought to light from that. It's always worth a shot, especially if you had anybody or knew anybody in the Atlanta area that were family in that time period. It's always worth a shot. And I guess Raymond froze again. Oh, and he's back. So
Yeah, made it most of the show before it happened again, but it finally went. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and I was like, please pop back up. I gotta be able to end this show. I only have 10 minutes, man. Let me finish my work. Uh,
exactly. And the other reason why I like about the AtlantaMonster.com is that he does a little write up of every victim, every child with their name, about a little blurb about them, and the best thing about it is you get to see a face. So when you've heard us talk about certain kids, like my favorite Yusuf Bell, and you see his pudgy little cheeked face, it makes it all more real than just a name. So
yeah, these aren't just names. These aren't just victims. They were someone's child,
yep, so
and
much child,
that's
brother, sister, and people are still
why
alive.
it was so important to
Mm-hmm.
take it, at least give this a look and see what we can, you know, figure out from the chaotic mess that was 500 some pages worth of FBI
Mm-hmm.
files, and that's not including what the Atlanta PD and the Georgia Bureau had, because they had even more, and I I don't know how to access that. I wish I did, because
Yeah,
then we could
because
compare notes and go through it and see
a,
what.
a lot of that stuff is not redacted, and I don't understand how it's not redacted. Like I said, when if you watch Atlanta's Missing, that's currently actually is on Max. Um,
Yes.
so and if you can't, I'm sure somebody on YouTube may have it up, but they reopened the case. They have eyes looking at it, and he is taking the redacted FBI. So when they have a person that they're looking at, but it's giving a description, he is going to the Georgia police or the Atlanta police, the regular PD, and he's looking at the state trooper people because we had all these organizations in on it together. There are things that are not redacted, and he's going, oh, that's this guy, and he puts that paper with that. So he's starting to mesh things together. So you can see what and who they had possibly could have been a credible look at, or one that was, oh yeah, that was crazy, absolutely crazy, and just toss that in the can. Don't even look at that one. So that, and I will also put up the picture of the memorial that they finally put up for these boys. Little late, but it's very simple. It's very nice. Reminds me of another memorial in Massachusetts with just some names that you can go and put flowers on. It looks really nice.
Good.
So
And we're ending it a little bit more seriously than what we normally
mhm.
do. Usually at this
Yeah.
point we're cutting up and I'm acting like a retard. Because welcome to the show. Um,
Yeah,
halt, stop. Would you like some gum?
exactly. I think because I think we're ending it on such a, I want to say somber, more serious note, is because this is serious. And then not only that, for me, it's in a time period that like I remember when it hit out of state and went national, and I remember this.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, it's definitely within recent memory. Um,
yep,
and we just want to see full justice for everybody involved.
exactly. Because
That's
they're
that's
little
all it
kids.
is. We, we,
That's all it is.
we want some answers for them.
Mhm. They deserve them.
Yeah.
Families deserve them. Their mothers and fathers, aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, sisters. There's some that aren't with us anymore that they didn't get the answer. So they're hoping that their sibling, because a lot of these kids had, 3 or 4 siblings, um, will get answers. I mean, they recently, I think about when it was 2019, 2020, when they put out that missing children of Atlanta. They were having a reunion of sorts, which this was, I thought, was weird. They actually had Williams call in and talk to them at the church, and he was
Yeah,
saying how
that's
innocent he was. That was, and parents of these boys, they like wanted to listen to that. That was that blew my mind, but he was
once again
there.
that's kind of bizarre, but the entire case has been.
Case is
Good
bizarre,
Lord.
you know. But yeah, like called in to say, I have no idea what happened to your boys, none whatsoever. I'm sorry, like, and I'm just like, why would you? But to each his own.
Yeah.
Everybody, I don't know. Maybe they finally
Yeah,
figured that
because
come
I'm
clean.
sorry with all the lies that he told throughout the entire thing and stuff. I have a hard time believing him. I really
Exactly.
do. Even if
Yep.
he didn't do it, he still just lied his ass off the entire time, and I I have a hard time believing him.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as for us, at least for now, because we have spent 4 weeks on this, and we are moving on to a new topic next month. Case closed.
Case closed. We should get a gavel and just
Don't
be
tempt me.
done.
Don't tempt me. I'll be right in the middle of somebody talking. Just you're good. Next, order in the court. I'll have a cheeseburger.
Order of the court is done. Trial dismissed. Case dismissed.
Dismissed.
Like,
There it is. I broke. Um,
yeah.
trust me. There's some of this that was already broke it to begin with.
Well,
It's okay.
we're all broke. I mean, think about it.
It's
We have to be a little twisted if this is a hobby of reading and thinking and looking at serial killers.
I
It's
mean,
got to be. I
I,
mean, some serial killers
I
have to
wrote
be
the
mass
book in
tyrants.
first person. I
Yeah.
wrote I Am
Yes.
Brian in first person.
Yes. Yes, sir.
It
Everyone
is
should
a
go
book
on
about a serial
Amazon.
killer. I wrote it in first person.
Is it, and it's available on Amazon?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, A- Apple Books, you name it, it's available on it. I'm pretty sure it's getting ready to go and sell on Smashwords too, because they're having a special event, and all the books will be on there, either at reduced price or for free. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, so all my books are available everywhere. If you go to get Rise of the Fallen in a book, I suggest you go to Barnes and Noble because Amazon only had them through third parties now. I don't understand why, but they do. And I don't want to see you guys pay more than what you have to for that book. I'm sorry, but I don't.
yeah.
Um, Mainly because yes, I like selling books, but I don't want people to charge more than what I'm charging.
Exactly.
But I will say that writing I Am Brian, there was no notes. There was a lot of whiskey, and most of the time I didn't remember anything after I finished writing it. It was an experience.
Mm.
Like I full on, we're channeling. We're going. I,
I was gonna say you must have
Raymond's
been
not here at the
channeling
moment.
somebody.
100%. I don't know who it was, but there was somebody coming through. It could have been a past life. It could have been whatever. I don't know. I've never done the research to see if there was a Brian Leroy Lewis in the past.
Oh, guess what?
Because
Guess you just told that to the wrong person. Because what am I gonna go do? Oh, now you're muted.
yeah, I
There
touched
you
a
go.
cord and it got mad at
There
me.
you go. So
Um,
what was it? Brian Leroy what?
Brian Leroy Lewis. was the
I
name of
mean,
my serial killer.
I mean, you do know you just told the wrong person.
And I will say he is a narcissist, he is a sociopath, and he has a superhero complex. So good luck deciphering what's real and what's not throughout the book because I'm not telling.
That would ruin it. You have to go buy it. So
Yeah.
everybody should go buy it. Go buy it. Go buy it. Go buy it.
I will put trigger warnings with that. There are a lot of violent scenes in it, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also a lot of very sexual scenes in it as well. So if if that's the kind of smut you like, have fun. Um, but
Oh,
yeah, there's just chaos all the way around this dude, and it the twists and turns and stuff will have you. It's not a long book, but the twists and turns in it and stuff will keep you going.
it's always good.
Ugh.
So
But
until next time, when we have,
until next time,
are we? We're not giving a hint, right? Still, we'll give a hint like towards the middle of
yeah,
the
I'll
week.
put out a hint sometime this week. That way you can have an idea of which way we're going with this next situation. It is technically a case.
Yes, it is.
It is not a recent case,
No,
but
it's
it is a
not.
case.
Yep.
And this is going to be fun because I'm really going to have to deep dive to find as much source material as I can for this one because I want to see what was written and what was said
Yep.
as directly from the horse's mouth as possible.
Mm-hmm. It will
But
be
we,
fun because I have ties to this. So
yep. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you got something from this as much as we have going through
yes.
the case the last month.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully you join us next month to find out what we're talking about next because it's going to be a fun one.
It is going to be a fun one.
Until then, thank you for watching Death Scenes and Cemeteries.